Yeah, I have an update. If you joined us at 5, you would have seen more than a dozen striking workers standing outside in solidarity, with 17 of them inside staging a sit-in. And we've learned a little bit more about that situation. Again, as you can see, inside the lobby of the University of California Office of the President, it's clear. There's a number of officers just kind of standing around. We now know that those 17 academic workers have been arrested, cited, and released. They were cited for trespassing, and for them, they say that this fight continues. Now, as you mentioned, there is a deal right now between a number of those labor units and the administration. Postdoc students and academic researchers reached that tentative deal last week, and that would actually grant them a wage increase to help address the cost of living. But they only make up about 12,000 of the 48,000 union members represented by the UAW, who walked off the job and onto the picket lines 3 weeks ago. You're looking at some video right now from earlier in the day when hundreds of academic workers marched throughout Sacramento, and the remaining 36,000 workers, including teaching assistants, tutors, researchers, and others, are still calling for increased pay and benefits. But today, of course, marks the start of finals, so it could certainly crank up the pressure on UC administrators, but this is having real impacts on undergrads. Meanwhile, I just want to bring it back to the situation that happened here. We actually spoke with one of those academic workers who was arrested and cited with trespassing and released tonight. Here's what he had to say.
We have been forced to be at this point where we are trying to draw attention to the issue. And it's really shameful that, we as grad students have to take such drastic action because our university is not supporting us in the way that we need to be supported.
Now, in spite of this drastic action that they are actually framing as civil disobedience, the striking workers that we spoke to tonight tell me that they are still hopeful that bargaining will continue into the evening and through this week, and they are hopeful that they'll have a deal and be back on the job.
Wow, Luke, a stunning update. You said those 17 students there that were protesting have been arrested and cited. Please keep us updated on this developing situation. And now, Chris, you remember that Luke had mentioned earlier in his story that the cost of living has been an issue for these workers and these student workers. And I had just looked up on payscale.com, and it's talking about different cities in California. And in Davis, for example, that city is 49% higher in the national average. And then housing alone, 170% higher.
Sadly, we often see that in communities across California, that dichotomy, that disparity. So stay with ABC 10 for updates as we continue to track this developing story.